So one of my favorite books growing up as a child was Swami and Friends by R.K. Narayanan. You see, I had never read any books in which I could see characters that looked like me or sounded like me or even lived in places like me. They didn't go to a school like mine. They didn't have teachers like mine. They didn't have picnics and house parties like I did. And so the worlds that of the most of the books that I was reading were worlds that were very different from mine. Swami and Friends came along, and when I read it, I was completely transfixed by Swami and his four friends, all a lot like my own. His teachers, whom he was, the arithmetic teacher who he was really scared of, the scriptures teacher who was, really talking about the difference between Hinduism and Christianity and Islam, a lot like in my school. I mean, I went to a Catholic school and we had catechism class and we had moral science class, and there were these topics that were definitely brought up. So I think Swami and Friends was one of the first books that really caught my imagination, and was the first book that I actually fully read. So it's really important for kids to see themselves in text, to see their stories reflected in text, to see settings that they're familiar to be reflected in text. And that's what Swami and Friends did for me. So one of the books that I have written, it's called My Bindi. It's about the Bindi, which is like the third eye right between the two eyes that look outward. The Bindi looks inward. And the story is about a little girl called Divya who lives in the US and is very scared to wear the Bindi to school. And she comes from the assimilationist mindset that if she wore a Bindi, she would look different and people would make fun of her. Her mother, of course, is a traditional South Indian lady who lives in the US. She's an immigrant, but she proudly wears her Bindi and has no clue about the world that Divya is navigating in school. So she kind of suggests to her daughter that she should also wear the Bindi and be proud of it. So with a lot of trepidation, Divya decides to wear the Bindi to school. And much to her surprise, her classmates don't make fun of her. In fact, they're curious and want to know more about it. And her teacher asks her to explain what the Bindi is, which is such a wonderful opportunity for Divya to shine, to talk about her culture and heritage with pride and to shine. And I hope that this book will give courage to every Desi girl who wants to wear, or boy who wants to wear a Bindi or wants to celebrate their heritage and culture, to do so with pride. And to every kid to show up authentically at school. So that's a book that I'm excited that everybody reads. I mean, I'm reading it too, but I'm really excited for other people to read it. I'm also writing a second book. My Sari is coming out in 2024, which is a sequel to My Bindi. And I just submitted a draft for another book in the same series called My Bangles. And all these books is basically what Peerbagh is about, which is breaking that colonial mindset that we have and being proud of who we are and where we come from and being proud of our stories. Reading definitely can serve as windows and mirrors, right? And windows are when you can see the lives of other people reflected in text, and mirrors are when you can see yourself and your kind of life reflected in the text. But I think for anyone who's beginning their reading journey, it's really important to surround yourself with books that are mirrors. So read anything that you get your hands on, really looking for that book that serves as a mirror. For me, when I was a kid, I read a lot of Enid Blyton. I read Nancy Drew. The books were great, but I just couldn't see myself in that text. And so I was never engaged in those books. Finishing that book was like a big chore for me. And I remember my grandfather, who was a very voracious reader, would ask me whether I'm finishing a book or, I'm having the stamina to read, and that it was important to do so. But I couldn't do it, not because I had no stamina. It's because there was nothing interesting in the book, nothing that really appealed to me. So when I got my hand on Swami and Friends, then my reading journey started to take flight. So find that one book which serves you as a mirror which serves as a mirror. And I think that might be the first step into getting into a reading life. And then, of course, you'll see yourself starting to consume more and more of that kind of literature. And I think kids today are very lucky because we do have a whole movement, at least abroad in the US, that's going on called We Need Diverse Books. We have a huge children's publishing industry in India that is slowly starting to blossom. You have publishers like Tulika, you have the Whole Books, you have, of course, Penguin Random House and Scholastic.